So today we're going to talk about Soundarya. And I was having a brief discussion with Prerna just now, and here's what I think. The only time that you can truly be free is when you're a child. And the reason that you can be free when you are a child is because you have a parent or parents. You can do what you want, you don't have to care about anything. Nothing is your responsibility because you have parents. It's their responsibility. You're a kid. The only responsibility you have in your life is to have fun. So the only time you can totally experience freedom is when you are a child or when you have a parent, right? So you are in a childlike pose and you have a parent who can take care of you. And in life, in general, the only time that you can experience this feeling is when you have found the celestial mother, the goddess. When you know you can, and I say the goddess, it may not be true for everybody. For somebody, it can be a male form, it can be Lord Shiva, or it can be Vishnu or Narayan. It doesn't have to be a female form goddess, but it's much easier to be with a mother than it is to be with a father. With a father, you have to follow rules. With a mother, everything goes. If I made a mistake, also it goes. If I lied, also it goes. If I cheated, also it goes. So with a mom, everything goes. So the freedom that you're able to experience when you find the Divine Mother is, I think, a tad bit more, and maybe I'm biased, but a tad bit more than the freedom that you would experience in being with a father. And that's when you truly experience freedom. You can do what you want. You can fly if you want. You can make mistakes if you want. You can lie if you want. And there is no one that you're answerable to outside of this world except your parents. True freedom is very beautiful. So there were traditionally three sects, or they are also called agam. Prerna, you might want to mute yourself, Beta.
Yeah.
Agam is a sect which dates back into Vedic times, and there were three popular sects. The first one, or first agam, is Vaishnav, which is to do with Narayan or Vishnu. This agam usually prescribes a lot of rules. You should do this, you should do this, you should do this. Also shares in a little bit of how you can take care of yourself physically, and you can read that portion of yoga integrated in the Vaishnava agam in Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, you can read that. And mostly it's prescriptive, predominantly it's bhakti based. A little control, very little control is given to you as an individual, right? When you look at it, Vishnu, Narayan means everything is prescribed. You have to follow the rules. Very little control is given to the individual, the you. And if you do it, you are going to achieve whatever it is, whether it is material things that you're looking for, or emotional or mental advancements, or even spiritual freedom. So Agam is the oldest form of religion that we know of, and it has three forms, or it was in three segments. The first one was Vaishnav, which was Vishnu based. For some people, rules didn't work. So there was another Agam, which was Shiv based. This was more about yoga and practice and self. The prescription was there, but the prescription wasn't mandatory for you to be able to realize yourself. So you hear stories of, oh, because a guy was on top of a tree all night, not doing anything, just sitting on the tree, and it happened to be a bilva tree. And because bilva leaves kept falling on the shivling, the next morning he attains nirvana, or he attains knowledge or gyan or whatever. So it didn't really need structured practice, though structure was prescribed. It was mostly to do with managing yourself in terms of your mind and your body. And so a prolific amount of writing is there in this agam around yoga and dhyan and practices of meditation, etc. The third agam that also became popular is the Shakt agam, Shakt. Which puja is this? Anyways, so the third agam that became really popular is the Shakt agam. Now, this was a little different from Agam 1 and Agam 2. While there was Advaita prescribed in Vaishnavagam and Advaita prescribed in the Shaivagam, Shakt was really unique. Now, when I say Advaita, what do I mean? Advaita means, so Vaishnav Agam said you should do all of this. Who do you do it for? You do it for Narayan. You love Narayan. So this is Dvait. When there is me and there is the object of my reverence or worship, this is Dvait. 90% of Vaishnav philosophy was about Narayan, separate from me. There were references of Advaita, like you could realize that space of Narayan, but that emphasis was not there for common man. We move on to Advaita in the Shaiv Agam. So in the Shaiv Agam, what happened is they said, yes, there is Dvait, there is Lord Shiva as a separate entity. This entire Agam didn't deal with Advaita at all, Dvaita much. So 20% of this Agam was focused on Dvait, that is, Lord Shiva being the object of my reverence. 80% of this Agam was about achieving that state of consciousness which is Shiv. Okay. So we see some Advaita in Vaishnavagam, We see a lot of Advaita in Shaivagam. And also there are a lot of practices prescribed to achieve that state of mind, right? Then there was a third Agam, which was Shakt. This is the goddess, or praying to the ultimate universe, or Shakti, primordial Shakti. The philosophy here was that there is Dvait, I can reach, or there is a goddess that I can pray to. And there is also Advait, the goddess is inherently inside me. So it is not a state of consciousness that I have to reach. This Agam focused on the primordial Shakti being in your individual being. You can be whatever. This is not something that was prescribed by Vaishnavas. This is not something that was prescribed by Shaivas. This is something that was only prescribed by the Shakts. You can be whatever. Very different. You can be a devotee of Narayan. You can be somebody that Narayan has grace on, or you can be in Vaikuntha Dham with Narayan. That's Narayan. With Lord Shiva, you can reach the state of Shiv consciousness. You can pray to Lord Shiva, you can get his grace, and you can reach the state of Shiva. Both of those. The third one is interesting. The third one is the Shakt. And they say that you have Shakti. You can be whatever. There is definitely goddess. You can get her grace. But that grace resides inside you also. You can be whatever. This amount of freedom was not given to anybody. When you look at Shaivagam, they said, okay, good and bad, all acceptable, right? And we see a lot of examples of that in Aghoris. No, you can have the Kashmir Shaivism follows the strict principled or structured approach of Shaivism, and then Aghoris follow a completely different unstructured process of Shaivism. So good and bad both are equal in Shaivism. But at no place in Shaivism there is you can be anything. That is not there. You can have everything in Vaishnavism. So all the abundance of the universe is possible if you have Narayan's grace. You can achieve a state, so the highest form is the state of consciousness of Lord Shiva in Shaivism. But in Shakt Agam, you could be anything. And I'll explain this a little bit more. What does it mean that you can be anything? It means you can literally be anything. If you want money, you can get money. If you want looks, you can get looks. If you want freedom from birth and death, you can get freedom from birth. You can just aspire to be anything you want. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Pooja, Prerna, you can unmute yourself. Do you understand that, or is there something that you don't understand in this?
Didi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? जी, understood. I can't see you. क्या हो गया?
Yeah, Didi, understood so far.
Okay, so three agams, this is the oldest form of practice: Shaiv, Vaishnav, and Shakt. And they're very different. The focus on Advaita was perhaps the most in Shaivism, but Shaivism approached Advaita from a very Shiv-like state. Like, we are reaching out to consciousness. So either I'm mortal or I'm Shiv. In the Shaktagam, it was described that there are forms of godliness or stateliness or brilliance that you can achieve. Yeah, you can have physical attainment of everything. You can have social attainment of things, and you can have spiritual attainment of things. Okay, so this is the most versatile. The Shaktagam had a lot of do's and don'ts, because if you want to achieve a certain thing, there will be do's and don'ts. There were a lot of prescriptions, just like in the Vaishnav prescriptions, but the power resided in you. Okay. The power of what you want to achieve resided in you. So Soundarya Lahari is going to fall in this segment of the works that we can possibly study when it pertains to spiritualism. So there are works, Agam works from Vaishnavism, from Shaivism, and there is Shaktagam. Shaktagam talked about the Kundalini moving from, so the Shakti is residing in you, the Kundalini moving from Mooladhar right up to Sahasrar and beyond. Okay. And so everything that we study which pertains to Shakti automatically belongs to this Agam, and it's important to understand the difference. So Soundarya Lahari is Shaktagam. In Shaktagam also, and I'm going to spend a little bit on this history, there were three sects. Kaula sect. This is those people who practiced the worship of Shakti or the invocation of Shakti for personal gain. So this is that part of Shakti Puja or Shakti Upasana which pertains to Tantra, material gain, material benefits. Like I said, you can be anything. So you can be a big destroyer, you can be a big victor, you can be a king, you can be whatever. And the people who practice this at a very physical level, these were sects in West Bengal, in Odisha, some parts of Kashmir, some parts of South India. You would refer to these people as tantrics or people who practice tantra, but basically they are from what part of Shakti Upasana? Kaula Shakti Upasaks. Kaula means they want to invoke Shakti to be able to get material benefits. And again, we have to understand this is not really Dvaita. This is not I am praying to Shakti. I am actually invoking it inside me. Right? So there is no separate. There is no Dvaita. There is no me and my object of worship is the goddess. Yes, my object of worship is the goddess, but the goddess is inside me. So it's a very beautiful, different way of looking at things. So the first sect was Kaula. The sect itself became very feared and revered because they were very powerful people who could actually change the physical universe. The second sect, so in this sect, in Kaula sect, puja required a lot of material things. ये भी चाहिए. अब जैसे हम say चंडी हवन करना है, तो we have to get like at least 107 types of jadi booty and 5 types of materials. घी चाहिए, honey चाहिए, और कभी-कभी बलि के लिए बकरा भी चाहिए. So वही पूजा जब कॉल सेट के लोग करते हैं, तो उसमें बहुत सारी मटेरियल चीजें लगती हैं. Shakti puja for physical benefit. The second sect that came from the Shakt Agam community was Mishra. This Mishra sect was a little bit more sophisticated and less dependent on physicality of the material universe. So when we talk about Lord Shiva as consciousness and Devi as Prakriti, the Kaula sect actually just revered the goddess as Prakriti, as physical nature. The Mishra sect used the goddess or Shakti to be somewhere in between. So the Kaula sect was only interested in the manifestations of Mooladhar, all material manifestations. The Mishra sect was interested in a little bit of both, material and intellectual. That's why it's called Mishra. So the space that they basically resided in was Anahat. Their practices were a little more sophisticated. Practices would contain yantras, mantras, a lot more of sophisticated visualization and symbolization as compared to Kaula, which was absolute. And the benefits that accrued, or the limitation that these people had, was they could reach only up to Anahat. Their practice, or the Kundalini, or the spirit, or the Devi, could only reach Anahat. The Kaula sect prayed to the goddess in her primordial form of sleeping Kundalini. The Kundalini is not awakened in the Kaula sect. In the Mishra sect, the Kundalini is awakened and is transmitted right up to Anahat. So you understand the benefits of material benevolence that comes with that kind of practice, and you also understand the benefits of a little bit of detachment, a little bit of consciousness and understanding of what that consciousness is. So a lot of us who are practitioners for a while, I would say even after 1 year of your practice of Sahasranamams, which is Devi Puja, when you're doing Lalita, what happens is only when you're doing Lalita, this doesn't happen when you do Vishnu. Only when you are doing Lalita, what will happen is after a bit, after about a year, some months, 2 years, or even less than that, maybe 6 months, you will start feeling detachment. You will not be attached to like, why do I not feel badly when my son is crying, or when my husband is upset, or when something really tragic is happening in somebody else's life? I feel compassion, but I don't feel attachment. Have you guys felt that? Yeah?
Yes, Didi.
Yes.
So this starts to happen. So which sect are we kind of practicing in? We're practicing in the Mishra sect.
Mishra.
Because we are using mantras, we are not using the physical tantra associated to this mantra. There is a physical tantra or yantra associated with these mantras that you are practicing, but you will start experiencing the changes at a physical level. These changes will be slightly sublime because you're not using it to your full potential, to its full material potential. And the changes at a conscious level, like I explained or described, this change will happen slowly and gradually, start getting detached. Why am I not feeling upset? I should feel upset. Sometimes, if you are a number 5 or a number 6, as we have right now, they will be like, this is my duty. I'm duty bound to feel upset right now. Why am I not feeling upset? I have had this question from you guys a lot of times. Why am I not feeling upset? This is because your practice of the goddess takes you to this level where you are slightly detached. You are kind of reaching out to that consciousness. The third sect that Devi Upasaks fall into is the sect of Samaya. So Agam in Shakt was divided into 3: Kola or Kaul or Kaula. Kaula is how it is written in English. Mishra, Misra, and Samaya. Sa-Maya. What does that mean? Sa-Maya. Maya is the goddess. Sa with Maya. Samaya. The Samaya sect was not interested in any material benefits. They did not need any material to practice. They did not need an idol. They did not need material. They did not have ahutis. They did not have jal. They did not need anything. They did not even need the yantra part of it. They could visualize everything. They could make the yantra on their hand and then go forth from there. Nothing. So there were 3 sects, and their aspiration was not material at all. The aspiration was to be with the goddess. Samaya, kisi cheez mein sama jana. Yani ki be one with the universe. The aspiration is supreme consciousness. Yeah. So the supreme consciousness is the aspiration of the third sect, which is the Samaya sect. Now, why am I explaining all of this when we have to do Soundarya Lahari? Soundarya Lahari is claimed to be by various literary geniuses the epitome of Devi Puja. And why I'm explaining all of this is because epitome doesn't mean Samaya. Epitome means it is everything. It is Kaula, it is Mishra, and it is Samaya. It has 3 sects of Shak Puja included in it. It is the entire goddess. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
Yes, Devi.
So it's very powerful. It's very beautiful. There was a question in my class once to even Lalita Sahasranam is very powerful. And it also contains a lot of tantric pieces. It contains a lot of mantric pieces. It contains a lot of yantric pieces. And it can be used for elevation of all of these three spaces: material, mind, and consciousness. So why do we differentiate between Lalita Sahasranam and Soundarya Lahari? What is the difference? It's a good question. And why isn't Lalita Sahasranam enough? It is enough. It is very beautiful. It is very powerful. It is very good. Here's the difference. And we've been talking a little bit about Advait and Dvait, and I'm going to say this again. Lalita Sahasranam in its practice is me paying obedience to the goddess of mantra, the goddess of tantra, the goddess of yantra, the goddess of matter, and the goddess of supreme consciousness. I am paying obedience. I am taking her name. Is this Dvait or is this Advait?
It's Dvait.
Very good. It's Dvait. It's Dvait because there are two people, me and the goddess. So the entire Lalita Sahasranam, when you practice it, it is a Dvait form of puja. The goddess is like this. If you do this puja, you would be able to invoke her grace. And this is very important. You have to understand this difference. Soundarya Lahari is invoking that goddess inside you. So it is the goddess herself. It is not me and the goddess. It is the goddess herself. Every time I speak one shloka, goddess is there. Every time I enunciate it, the goddess is there. Every time I do the tantra around it, that bounty will come by. Yeah? So the difference between Lalita Sahasranam practice or even tantric practice of that and the practice of Soundarya Lahari is basically one is rooted in the Dvait form of puja and the other is rooted in the Advait
Advait.
of puja. Does that make sense? And the other difference that is worth mentioning here is that there is poetry, there is two kinds of poetry. One is poetry with very beautiful names, right? Like, how beautifully can you say that somebody has a narrow waist? You can say it is like lasat kacha, like a small vine, which is entwined around a tree, right? So when you want to express, there are two kinds of poetry. One has very beautiful references and one has very beautiful words. Sometimes the words, I mean, we're Indians, right? Just look at how we write. We love using heavy words, big words. You can totally tell when you're reading something from an Indian versus somebody from outside the country. The usage of heavy, big vocabulary is very, maybe it's English. Maybe it's very English. So between Lalita Sahasranam and Soundarya Lahari, the difference is in Lalita Sahasranam, the words are used, the big words are used as names. Naam ras hai usme. And in Soundarya Lahari, in the whole Soundarya Lahari, 100 shlokas, perhaps her Devi is referred to a few times, 10, 15 times. And even so, when she's referred to, her names are very interesting. Himgiri, Shiva, Bhairavi. Interesting because they are not her names. They are either her father's name or her husband's name. So the focus on Soundarya Lahari, in Soundarya Lahari, is on poetry and description rather than the names. And in Lalita Sahasranam, the entire Sahasranam is 1000 names. Beautiful, beautiful names of the goddess. Strung together very beautifully. Yeah. Now a little bit about when Soundarya Lahari was written and how did it come to pass. Soundarya Lahari is a text that was given to us by Adi Shankaracharya. And Adi Shankaracharya was, we know who Adi Shankaracharya was, but we can talk about it a little bit, was the establisher or the person who re-established Hinduism in this country, or Hindu practices in this country in a unified fashion. Some say he was an incarnation of Shiv, and I find that I've often mentioned it like that. And some say that he was a great teacher. He was the best teacher ever. He was like Shankar, very accomplished. But no one can deny his contribution to our literature as well as our religion and our practices. So Adi Shankaracharya, and we talk about his story a little bit later in the next session, was a very, very accomplished scholar and sadhak. And he had mastered all the three agams. It's not like he wasn't prolificent or accomplished in Vaishnavagam or Shaivagam or Shaktakam. He had accomplished equally he was accomplished equally in all the three agams. The story goes that he once decided to visit Mount Kailash. Kailash is the abode for Lord Shiva. He decided he wants to go to Kailash Parvat. So he went to Kailash. And Kailash is not a space. It is almost like a quantum entrance. Okay? So it's not something which is physical. It's not the ground and the trees. And yes, it is. But it is also a spiritual space, a plane, which you can reach if you have a whole lot of sadhana under your belt. And if you are able to see, you would be able to see Lord Shiva and the goddess and Nandi and the Ganas, everybody at Kailash. So Shankaracharya obviously had this state of penance and sadhana, and he was able to visit Mount Kailash like we hear about Mount Kailash as an abode of Shiva and Shakti. वो गए वहां पे. And it is said that Lord Shiva was so happy, the goddess and the Lord were so happy with his accomplishments, with his state of sadhana, that they both gave him gifts. Now, what he got from there was very interesting. He got 4 shivlings, 4 crystal shivlings from Lord Shiva. Crystal shivling signifies a clear state of consciousness. Supreme consciousness, clear state of consciousness. It is said by Adi Shankaracharya himself that there are 7 levels of consciousness. So there is Mooladhar to Sahasrar, that is level 1. And then there are 7 levels beyond. Okay? It is not clear to us as to why Lord Shiva didn't give him 7 shivlings. Maybe the last 3 layers are so subtle that the shivling cannot be forged, or they are so supreme that they cannot be physically palpable. But he got only 4. Of the 7 levels of consciousness, Shankaracharya came back with 4 shivlings. And he was given the Soundarya Lahari by the goddess. The legend says that there are 2 legends around it. One is that as Shankaracharya Bhagavad was coming out, Nandi got really upset that you are carrying Lord Shiva and the goddess with you. How can this happen? So he took the text and he tore it away. The other story goes that there was this Soundarya Lahari text written on Kailash, and Bhagavad started to read it, and Ganpati found him reading it. So he quickly started erasing it. So he could only reach up to 41 shlokas. Okay. Now, interestingly, he couldn't take the 7 shivlings and he couldn't take the entire 100 shlokas from Kailash when he started to come back. Either we can assume that Shankaracharya was not accomplished enough, or we can assume that these pieces were so subtle that they were not physically manifested, or we can assume that they were not meant for public consumption. Either of them, these options can be true and right. We have a very small mind to be able to understand this. But he came away with 4 states of consciousness, which he has described when Shankaracharya writes. He writes about 4 states of consciousness and he acknowledges there are 7 states of consciousness. And here he brings 41 shlokas of Ananda Lahari written by Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva instructs him to write the rest, 59 shlokas, himself. This portion is called Soundarya Lahari. So Soundarya Lahari has 2 parts, Ananda Lahari and Soundarya Lahari. Ananda Lahari, it seems like Shankaracharya Bhagavad got from the goddess or Lord Shiva directly. And Soundarya Lahari bit is what he wrote himself. Right? So this is the legend of how this text came to be. In literary terms, this is celebrated as the epitome of poetry. If the best collection of names ever written were the Lalita Sahasranam, then Soundarya Lahari is the best piece of poetry ever written down. Also, it's extremely powerful because it encapsulates the three forms of the Shakti practice: Kaula, Mishra, and Samaya. You can practice Soundarya Lahari as a Samaya, and then you don't need anything else. You can practice it as a Kaula, and you need a lot of materials, etc. And similar benefits will ensue to you. So very powerful practice. It is a culmination of yantra, tantra, and mantra in every single shloka. There are 100 shlokas in Soundarya Lahari, and every single shloka is a complete embodiment of the goddess. The goddess of the Shakti of creation, the Shakti of sustenance, the Shakti of destruction. Ichha Shakti, Gyan Shakti, and Tisra?
Mano
Very good. So, Shakti का पूरा समागम है. It encapsulates it's not that the whole shloka encapsulates the Shakti. It takes Lalita Sahasranam 186 shlokas to describe the goddess. Soundarya Lahari is the goddess in every single shloka. There's a big difference. And therefore, it's very powerful, it's very coveted, and it's very revered. A lot of people will tell you not to practice it without having the right kind of initiation or invocation into the Sri Vidya Parampara. And my take on that is you cannot get any speck of the goddess in your life without her grace. Till date, I have tried to teach Soundarya Lahari to at least 15 people. And I haven't been able to teach the entire course even once. As we start moving forward, only those who are eligible to receive this grace will receive it. नहीं तो किसी वजह से, some reason or the other, you will be obscured, obstructed from reaching there, from reaching. It's possible that you skip 2 shlokas because you can't. You will not be able to because the goddess doesn't allow you to. The only way you can have the grace of the goddess is by the grace of the goddess. In the first shloka of Soundarya Lahari, this is what is written. No one, not Indra, not Vishnu, not Narayan, not Brahma, nobody can get the grace of the goddess without the grace of the goddess. The first shloka. So the fact that you are embarking on this journey, you cannot do this without her grace. The fact that you're listening in today, you couldn't have listened in if you didn't have grace. So don't beat yourself up. It's not about discipline. It's just about grace. If you can't finish it, it's not about discipline. It's just about grace. And I hope that everybody who listens to this course or who does this course is able to invoke it enough to be able to invoke the grace, to be able to finish it. So far, it hasn't happened. So it's a beautiful journey. It's 100 shlokas. It will take us about perhaps a year to finish this course. In its 4 segments. There are 4 segments. We will try and do 25 shlokas in each segment. The most number of shlokas that I've ever taught anybody is 32. So I'm hoping we can break that barrier. The reason why I'm recording this course is so that everybody who's interested is also able to access it, even if circumstances don't allow, because it's a longish period of time. So I'll leave the recordings on for a couple of days or that week, and then take them off so that they're not misused. So every week, whatever we've done, I'll leave the 2 recordings on for the week, and then I'll take them off. And technology is great, because now I've finally figured, it took me a long time, I finally figured how to use this to be able to take these classes. So if you can join us live, great. If you can't join us live, I will still continue to give the discourse for each of these courses, and then you can get it online. The last thing that I would like to mention for this course, and I mentioned this yesterday because somebody asked me, very tentatively, they asked me, we probably won't be able to give you the money today. Listen, I will only get the amount of money that I have the grace for. And I will only get that money when I have the grace for it. So whenever you give your dakshina is when I am eligible for that grace. So don't feel shy, and don't feel bad that you're not able to pay upfront. If you're able to pay upfront, great, because I'm supposed to receive it then. If you're able to pay 6 months from now, that is also wonderful, because I need it then. So don't feel self-conscious that you don't have the money, so this is why you shouldn't do the course. Please, if you're interested, sign up. And I'll try my best. I'm not the best at this, but whatever little the goddess has given me the permission to understand and appreciate, I will try my best to share it with you all through the entire course. Purusharth, you missed most of it. You can catch up after. Everybody else can hear me. I'll post the recording as soon as I'm done now. So do you guys have any questions, Pooja or Prerna?
No, Didi, not as of now.
Nothing for now.
Okay. So that's it from me. Is there anything else that you'd like to know for the course or about the course or what we are going to do that I haven't covered?
No.
Okay. Great. So I hope you understood everything that I did explain, and I will post this video up as soon as I'm done. And if you want to go back to it and listen to it, you're most welcome. All the best. Have a wonderful evening, day, morning, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Namaskar.
Tomorrow same time, Didi?
Tomorrow an hour earlier.
An hour earlier. 6:30.
Okay.
ठीक है. Namaste.
6:30 my
Namaste.
time, so 1 hour earlier than today.
Okay.
जी.
ठीक है. Namaste.
Namaskar.
Namaste, Didi.